regulation of privacy in Canada has evolved significantly over time. The first instances of formal data protection provisions were introduced in 1977 into the Canadian Human Rights Act. Later, in 1982, privacy was outlined in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which called for the right to life, liberty, and security of the person, as well as the right to be free from unreasonable search or seizure. Today, Canada is well known for its two federal privacy laws, enforced by the Office of the Privacy Commissioner of Canada, commonly known as the OPC. The Privacy Act governs how the federal government handles personal information, while the Personal Information Protection and Electronic Documents Act, PIPEDA, regulates how businesses handle personal information. PIPEDA was introduced on the 13th of April 2000 and entered into force on the 1st of January 2001 and regulates how private sector companies collect, use, and disclose the personal information of individuals when carrying out commercial or for-profit activities, and contains various provisions to facilitate the use of electronic documents. Schedule 1 of PIPEDA sets out 10 fair information principles that businesses must follow in order to protect personal information. In addition, PIPEDA outlines various data subject rights, such as the right to access, the right to accuracy and completeness of personal information, or the right to withdraw consent and submit complaints to the OPC. Moreover, organizations are required to appoint an individual or individuals who ensure the organization's compliance with the law by implementing data protection policies and procedures. This is particularly important with respect to data breaches and Canada's mandatory breach notification requirements under PIPEDA, which came into effect on the 1st of November 2018. Specifically, organizations are now required to notify individuals, the OPC, and potentially other organizations of a data breach. In addition to this federal regulation, several of Canada's provinces have their own privacy legislation applicable to the private sector, such as the Personal Information Protection Act in Alberta, the Personal Information Protection Act in British Columbia, or the Act respecting the protection of personal information in the private sector in Quebec. The legislation within these provinces has been deemed substantially similar to PIPEDA and therefore apply instead of PIPEDA with respect to the data processing within the province. Currently, much discussion in Canada surrounds possible amendments to PIPEDA. On the 21st of May 2019, Canada launched its Digital Charter to modernize the rules that govern the digital sphere. This charter outlines 10 principles to ensure the protection of privacy, such as control and consent, transparency, portability and interoperability, as well as enforcement and accountability, among other things. Following this, the OPC released its 2018 to 2019 annual report, which also calls for the modernization of PIPEDA into a rights-based foundation whereby privacy is protected as a human right, increased enforcement mechanisms, empowering the OPC to make binding orders and impose penalties for non-compliance, and allowing the OPC to carry out proactive inspections. How Canada's privacy legislation will be modernized remains to be seen. To continue researching key compliance requirements in Canada, use jurisdiction dashboards to quickly access the latest regulatory developments and best practice from leading experts.